Welcome to the 15th episode of PAOK Talk. We're your hosts, Angelo and Jono. Jono, how are you today?
Hey, Angelo, I'm doing well, doing well. Great to be back. It's been a little while, and obviously plenty has happened with PAOK over the last 10 days. So looking forward to analysing and discussing it all with you.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's been about 10 days or so. But before we get into it, just wanted to remind everyone we are on social media. We have a relatively new Twitter. You can find us at PAOK Talk on Twitter. And then on Instagram, it is PAOK underscore talk. So make sure you follow us on those social media sites for polls, pictures, videos, all that fun jazz. So, John, we've had an up and down week. I would say more down than ups, or the last throughout the last 7 days or so. We're gonna jump right into that first game, the Omonia game in Cyprus, in the Europa League, where we lost and then knocked us out of contention to advance from the group stages. I just want your thoughts about that game.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, obviously that defeat knocking us out of Europe for the season. I mean, really disappointing. I think most PAOK fans would agree it was a disappointing result, a disappointing performance. I think we only played maybe 15 to 20 minutes of good football where we looked decent, and I'd say that was probably before half time, which included the goal, a couple other little chances. So I mean, yeah, it was just a really disappointing way, and I think we had both kind of when the draw had happened, we had discussed our expectations and our hopes for the Europa League this year. We did say it was going to be a tight group, but I think we both expected to qualify. Um, and yeah, to be knocked out with a game to go, to not even bring it down to the last match day. I mean, what went wrong on Thursday in Cyprus specifically? I mean, I think we have to give credit to Abonia because over two games we looked the most lackluster we've looked maybe all season against them. So they set up well, they trouble us, they're dangerous on the counter just for whatever reason, and they also rotated some players. They had some starters on the bench in that game, so it
Mm-hmm.
makes it an even harder pill to swallow because they're having some struggles domestically and they prioritized that. That's what the coach said in his pre-match press conference. And then once they were in the game, he actually subbed on the starters. Like, oh shit, we're at like 1-1 here. Like we can actually like pinch a win. So I mean, it's just a disappointing all-round performance. I think it's yeah, I don't know what it was. The team just looked flat. We struggle against park defenses. I think they're just a well-organized team, back five, so they close down the space well. In that little 20-minute period, I think we kind of, once we started shifting the ball quickly, and we saw that in the goal, right? And the quick exchange between El Kaduri and Zivkovic and Solis, obviously, with the great finish, that was the way to go. And we kind of started doing it towards the end of the first half. And then we went away from it again early in the second half, and we just kind of struggled. But we did have some half chances, but I mean, we're just flat. I think more credit has to go to Omonia than anything else. And I mean, yeah, I don't know if you agree with that or if you think there's something specific that cost us that game.
No, I think I agree with everything you said. I think I've made it clear that I think that we have trouble playing against teams that sit back, and we don't have that creative midfielder, someone like who Biseswar was a couple years ago, right? Who can sit in the middle of the field and pinpoint those passes to oncoming runners. And I don't think Swiderski's that kind of forward where he's going to be, using his speed and agility to get through defensive lines and through the channels. What bothered me that game is I think we had so many wasted opportunities. We had a lot of possession. I'm not exactly sure of the number, but I think it was somewhere around 73%. I think they showed it on the game, and with 10 minutes left, we had 73% of the ball, and we had roughly 20 corner kicks, and we really didn't
Oh,
get any serious opportunities on a corner. I mean, even if we got one, that's 1 for 20. That's not great. Free kicks, everything. We just look. I think a couple of years ago we used to be a lot better on our set pieces. Now I'm not talking about
mm-hmm,
free kicks where we're going to goal. I'm talking about free kicks that are crosses into the box, right? I think
mm-hmm.
between that and corner kicks, we could have at least put some more pressure on their goalkeeper. But Omonia did what they had to do. They sat back. They knew they did their homework. They knew that we had trouble. I think every team that plays us knows that. And it was just one of those games. I mean, the first 10 minutes we were getting killed down that right side. Varela, he looked shaky, and that's something you usually don't see from him. He looked nervous. He looked unsure. He was just slow. That guy, I forget his name, the one that scored. He was just running up and down that side. And Uruguay was out of position on a couple of those, but it makes you wonder if Ingassen was in on that side. Because Ingassen I think is a little faster than Varela. Would he have been able to make those stops? There was a couple times they went down and they tried to cross, it didn't work. But I think Omonia had most of the opportunities in the first half. If you were looking, it could have been a 3-0, 2-0 game early on. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it was anyone in particular that played bad. I do want to say Tigaras, I gave him a lot of issues. I had a lot of, not issues, but I had, him
Gave him
as,
some stick. Gave
yeah,
him some stick.
right. I gave him some stick for that first match. I think he did better this game. I think he was put in a better position to succeed, and he did well. So I do want to commend him for that. There was also other players that played well, but overall, we just didn't look. We didn't look like a team that was excited to qualify. Now, I'm not saying obviously we do want to qualify, but we just looked like a team that we thought we were going to go in there and we were going to beat them, and that was it, right? So I'm not sure where we go from this. That this is a huge, huge mistake on our parts for not qualifying for the next round. I think we were put into a great position after the first 3 games, and we kind of shot ourselves in the foot.
Mm-hmm. Nah, absolutely. And you look back and, being 2-0 up against PSV and, going to them, like you said, we were in a great position. We had 5 points after 3 games. You're 2-0 up. We'll definitely look back over this European campaign and rue, what could have been. And as we've mentioned in previous podcasts, next year it's going to be, unless we win the league, we're going to be Conference League, so there's only one Champions League spot. So, unfortunately, to say goodbye to the Europa League, at least for a year like this, is real disappointing. But what you said on Vaguer and the defense, that was another thing. Our defense just looks very shaky. I think credit to Amonia, like you said, they had a lot of pace and they really, really troubled us. And I thought Crespo in particular had the most troubles. Varela was shaky, but Crespo really struggled, and and even despite all our possession, which what you said was correct, we had over 70%, and the corners, God, my gripe with the corners, it's
Mm-hmm.
a professional team has that many corners, you should be scoring at least a goal. I know we kind of
Right.
had that crossbar with Crespo, and there was that El Kaduri chance early in the second half where it was a near post flick, and he arrived at the back post, if you remember, where he put it wide.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
but I think a team at this level, any team has that many corners, you should be getting I don't want to say 2, but I feel 1.5 goals, from that many corners, at least one. We just look, and the thing is, so many corners are just cleared by the first, but they're just not threatening.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's that first post corner that we go for, and it never works. I don't know
yeah,
if it worked today for Asteras when they got the flick. Do you remember that? They had a good opportunity and it just
yeah.
went wide. I'm guessing that's what we try to do, but it doesn't look like there's anyone making that near post run.
Well, yeah, I think we do try to do that occasionally, and that's what both those chances against Ammonia were, because I think it was Fab flicked it to Crespo, who hit the crossbar from point blank range, and then that second chance where El Kaduri arrived at the back post was, I think, Ingerson. Not Ingerson, he didn't play. Someone else knocking it on to the back post. So, you can do that, but you need variation. You need other plays, because teams aren't stupid. They're going to work it out. And yeah, it's disappointing. And what you said, it was under Lucescu, where we were great at set pieces, and they actually had trick plays. We scored a couple of free kicks that were little trick plays, guys making runs, getting fed the ball. I can remember remember two off the top of my head. One against Benfica in the Champions League qualifying,
Mm-hmm.
where we went 1-0 up in Tulba, and against Atromitos as well in the league once, we scored a similar goal. That was just a well-worked free kick. So, I mean, it's to do with coaching, I'd say, because even under Ferreira, like our set pieces last year were poor. So,
Right.
yeah, it's something that needs to be improved. But, yeah, something else I want to say about the Omonia game, I think that I was a little bit surprised that Garcia made the subs when we had got to at half time at 1-1. I think like we weren't dominating, but I think we looked better towards the end of the second half and we were moving the ball quicker. So I think if we were 1-0 down, I would have understood. But the fact we had got back to 1-1, we had started to look like we were troubling Omonia a little bit. I was a little bit surprised he went ahead and took off Savab and Vaguer. Not that Savab was having a good game by any means, but the team looked like it had just clicked for the last 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
So I would have thought maybe he would want to let that play out for another 10 or 15 and then give Jan at least half an hour instead of 45. And he was clearly like not ready, didn't have a great second half, didn't have a great impact.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was only just back from injury. So, but yeah, I was a little bit surprised that he went ahead with those. I thought he would have maybe waited to give him we looked better. But, you know, it is what it is. We really didn't deserve to win that game. And the result reflects that.
Right, yeah. So let's move ahead to today's game. Well, for me it was today. For you it was yesterday. Um, Thoughts on that game? I mean, we were left questioning what would happen for a lot of the game, and we finally got a moment of brilliance from Solis. Thank goodness for Wonder Child. Um, then we got the penalty, which was well earned again by Solis, but it goes back to that point of we cannot break down teams, and that's been happening ever since we won the league. We've been close. We've been second, but we don't look good. We scrape out these games. How often does it come to the last 10 minutes of a game? All right, we were talking about, I think last episode or the one before, we were talking about how many goals in open play, right? Or most of them when we come back are penalty kicks, free kicks, whatever. So it goes to, we've said it over and over again, and until we get that player that is shifty in the center of the field who can break down defenses, I think we're going to struggle. And I don't know. So what do you think about today's game?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. In terms of the park's bust, we really do struggle to crack teams open. I think what also doesn't help, absolutely, the attacking midfielder, Bisesvar's fall from grace has been spectacular, for a lack of a better word. Like, you think back to 16, 17 when he first came, all the way through to our double winning year in 18, 19. He was a star, man. He was like up, he was maybe the best player in the league in that period. He was just quality. And his fall from grace has really been like it really snuck up on him. I think on himself as well. Like, I don't think if you asked him, I don't think he could explain what's happened to his play. But I think also having a striker, like lacking a striker that can just score, hurts as well. Because
Right.
with Brigovic, you could just, you could get a cheap goal. He had a goal in the air. He had a finish like in him. You saw that with Olympiacos over the weekend. They were locked 1-1. El Arabi pops up and scores a hat trick, right? And they end up winning comfortably in a game that probably wasn't that comfortable.
Right.
So I think both of those things, a combination of a lack of a pure attacking midfielder and a striker that is consistent and is just more than a poacher. And I mean, Cholak hasn't really settled in and has been quite poor so far. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I want to ask you about that red card and El Kaduri. Like, what did you like? Given we hadn't really created anything, and then that happens, he gets sent off, which was the correct decision. I mean, what were you thinking when that happened? Were you thinking a draw's a good result here, or were you thinking we're going to lose this and we're going to lose more ground on the top of the table?
I was thinking that we were going to lose the game, and it would be 2 points lost rather than 2 points saved. Right? Does that make sense? Did I say that right?
Oh, if we lost, then we'd have no points lost. Oh, two
Yeah.
points.
Well,
Yeah, we'd have zero.
Instead,
Anyways, whatever, yeah.
instead of going for the tie, right? That didn't, because that'd be 1 or 3. Anyways, yeah. Anyways, if we lost, that's not my forte. If we lost, I would have still been upset. Even if we tied, I would have been upset because you look at this game on the schedule and it's a game that you need to win when you're trying to go for first place. If we were trying to settle on second through fourth place, then yeah, a tie's fine because we're not going to fall behind that far from European. We're not going to fall out of European competition for next season. So, um, I definitely was thinking that it was going to be a loss, and even before that, we were not controlling the play. I mean, we had the ball, but we really didn't threaten. I don't think we had a shot in the first 30 minutes on goal. I mean, there was a cross from the left side where I think it was Schwab played it and Swiderski just missed it and went on goal. I'm not sure if we do. Can you recall any clear cut opportunities in the first?
Not really in the first half. I mean, the biggest opening that I remember was the passage of play where El Gadoudi ended up getting sent off, where the defender poked the ball away.
Right.
That wasn't a chance, but that was like we opened them up and looked dangerous. No, I don't remember like anything off the top of my head. I was a little bit sleepy when I was watching the game, but yeah, no, I think you're right.
I think it was a red card, and I don't think it was a penalty. I know that was a point of contention that some people thought was a penalty. I didn't see him. It was close, but I couldn't see for sure if he got his leg or not or his foot.
Yeah, look, the angles that we were shown, it was hard to
Right.
tell. I don't know if in the VAR booth they saw something more clear cut, but I mean, if there's any doubt, then you don't overturn the on-field decision, which is what happened.
Yeah, so I think that was dumb for him to do, and there's no way around it. I think Garcia is going to punish him. Now obviously I think it's just a 1 game suspension, or is it two?
I mean, I think he's technically been sent off for violent conduct, so
It's
I
going
mean,
to be a while. Yeah.
it could be 2 to 3. I'm not sure. I mean, Greece is a little bit funny with the card system, so I'm not going to profess to understand how the suspensions works. But he'll definitely miss, our biggest game of the season so far in the league next week.
And I
Against
think we
Addis,
play
double O.
Panathinaikos after, right?
We have Panathinaikos after too, so
I think he's out for both for sure.
yeah, I mean, definitely against Addis, which is going to be a blow having him not there.
Mm-hmm. Um,
So, yep.
yeah, I was gonna say even if he's out for Aris and then back for Panathinaikos, I don't think Garcia should play him. I mean, he hurt the team 2 games in a row, 2 big games, and he hurt the team. He cost the team. Now I don't know if it's frustration with. I think that the Omonia, it was just frustrating that we weren't getting chances that we should have won. I think it was the same thing with this game. He was frustrated that things weren't going well, and I think there's no way around it. It was a dumb decision, and I wouldn't be upset if Garcia doesn't play him for the rest of the calendar year for the other 2 3 games that we have left, to be honest. And the Granada game doesn't mean anything, so he could play in that. But why reward someone like that? If it doesn't matter, yeah, it matters in terms of winning. You get money, we'll get coefficient points for Greece, but you know, do you agree that if he is out for 1 game, Garcia should punish him for more?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that he's had a bad couple games, for sure. But I mean, I think players have brain fades all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't spit on anyone, he didn't stamp on anyone. Like, yeah, let's be honest, it was a red card because you don't put your head into anyone, you're going to get sent off more times than not.
Mm-hmm.
But the Asteras players made a meal of it. I mean, he hasn't, racially vilified anyone. I mean, I don't think. I understand what you're saying. Like, make a stance. We don't accept this behaviour, but I mean, I think he deserves his suspension and he's back in the team. He's been important this year.
Mm-hmm.
Bar the last couple games. I mean, I'd just be letting him. I'd play him in the Granada game. Obviously, that's he can't play against Adis, so why not? He'll miss Adis. Yeah, and hopefully not Panathinaikos. But if he does, he does. Yeah, I wouldn't be taking that
Right.
hard stance with him personally, but that's just my opinion. Back to the Asteras game though. So then we discussed obviously the red card. Man, and then what happened? Second half, we come out and we look like a different team, down a man. Like, we played a great second half. That was a huge performance, great character shown. I mean, I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, where was that in the how? Like, I mean, and I know you raised a good point off air where you said them going down to 10, us going down to 10 suited us, right? Because
Yep.
they took like meters on the pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean that's probably what helped that us going down to 10. They played a little bit more, but yeah, no, it was great in the second half. And like you said, man, Solis, that goal, brilliant. That's a quality, amazing finish. Um, Wins the penalty. We need to say like sliding doors though. So Asteras has that big chance right before Totally scores. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have that cutback that goes just like
Oh
you know
yeah.
an inch wide, and that
Mm-hmm.
goes in like I don't know if we win that game, let alone get a point.
Right.
Um, so I mean, yeah, really, like it just shows football is luck needs to be on your side to an extent, and it was for us in that instance. And then yeah, like all credit to Solis, like that's a great finish. The kid's got like he knows where the goal is. He can score. He can finish. He just gets to the right spots. Yeah, so he's definitely he's impressed, and he scored I think in our last four straight games. Lamia, PSV, Lamia, Omonia, and now against
Asteras. Right.
Asteras overnight. So fantastic from him. Um, I was a little bit worried, I'm not going to lie, when we got the penalty and Zivkovic stepped up. I know we had a debate earlier in the season on who
Mm-hmm.
our penalty taker should be.
He was 0 for
And
2,
we
right?
looked at, sorry?
He was 0 for 2. I think we looked and saw.
I don't think he had taken one in like an official game. I think he had taken one at like youth level. That's
Right.
what I was thinking. I'm like, this guy's never taken a penalty. Why the hell is he taking the penalty?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Obviously he scores, and the commentator said an interesting stat that he's the fourth different taker of our last four penalties. Um, with the others being Cholak, Svab, Augusto, and now Zivkovic. So we're a little bit unsettled in the penalty taking area, but all's well ends well. He scores, and we end up with a win. I mean, were you surprised to see us come out and have a really good second half despite being down a man?
Yeah, well, I didn't think, and it was crazy because the first 10 minutes of that second half, we were sitting back. It was a 4-4-1. We were sitting all the way back. And then I think, a light switch changed and we had some good opportunities at them. But what you said was right, is how we had a lot of space. They were playing more. They were playing attacking to get some opportunities, and that let us have the space that we needed to go and, get more offensive help. And I think Garcia definitely lit a fire under them at half for sure. So that I'm sure that played a part in things. But yeah, I'm happy we won. Obviously, it was looking nerve wracking for a good amount of the game, but you know we can't. We criticize them, but we also have to give them congratulations when they came out and they played well. And I think that part of it was the fact that we had more space. Part of it was, I'm sure, something was said at half. Their leaders, whatever, whether it was the coach, the leaders on the team. Yeah, so and then obviously Solis' wonder goal lit a fire too under them, and beautiful goal, and he scored some good goals. I mean, he doesn't get cheap goals. He gets hard working goals, good opportunities. So he has 8 goals in 18 games, and this is what I want to segment into the next little conversation we're gonna have. What to do with him? Now I know there's a lot of talk on. I don't think he's going anywhere this winter. What about in the summer? How much is he going to go for? Uh, and I want to ask you this question too. So I'll ask you these few questions. One, when do you see a realistic transfer for him? Two, how much would you accept? Or we'll go, how much would you accept and how much do you think PAOK would accept? And three, do you think he has a chance at breaking the record for the Greek transfer record, which right now I think goes to Retsos at 17.5 mil? Um,
I think that's
for a
correct from
Greek, I know
your point.
Podense he went for 19.6, but I'm talking about for a Greek. Retsos it looked like 17.5 according to Transfer Market. Mitroglou 15.2, Manolas 15. So, what's your take on those?
In terms of your last question, if he can break the record, I mean, if he continues on his current trajectory,
Mm-hmm.
he's probably capable of breaking it. Um, I'm not really sure. I mean, it's the transfer market can be interesting, and the difference with all those guys that you're mentioning, that they had played Champions League football for Olympiacos, right? So you play at that level, I think it bumps your price.
Right.
Whereas, in negotiation, I mean, he's done well in Europe and the Europa League, which isn't going to hurt him. I think it's fantastic for his exposure and for his value and just for his development. But I think that playing Champions League is obviously a different beast. So those other three that you had mentioned had played Champions League. I think it impacts the price. So I mean, if he keeps going the way he is, it's possible, but I'm not 100%. In terms of like, I wouldn't be moving him in the summer if he's happy to stay. And his side and agent aren't pressing to get him to
Mm-hmm.
move, which I don't think they would be because this is his first full season in the first team. I think you'd be. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of torn because obviously, as a PAOK fan, I want him to stay because he's playing well, he's scoring. At the same time, you look at it from a business point of view. He is very young. Not a business point of view, sorry, from a Greek football fan point of view, as to maximise his development for him, he's gonna be better off going to another country
Right.
where better coaches, better training, better facilities, all that sort of thing. The other thing too, from a bulk point of view to consider, now I think Solis is another level above the guys I'm going to mention, but someone like Athanasiadis who got hot for a few seasons and there were offers coming in for him, and we didn't sell, and then
Mm-hmm.
he ends up falling off a cliff, and his career's really petered out into nothingness.
Right.
I mean, I'm not suggesting for a second Solis is going to be like that because I think he's far more talented.
Mm-hmm.
He has more strings to his bow. He can do more things than just a pure poacher, which is what Klaus was for us. So yeah, like I mean, there's something to consider too. If like an offer for say close to 10 million comes, Angelo, do you consider it, thinking that, or do you back the kid's ability and say no, he's good, he's going to get better. In a year, we're going to get like more. What do you like? If an offer for like 10 mil came in the summer, do you sell?
For 10, though.
You don't.
I'm saying if he keeps the trajectory right. I mean, obviously, if he does nothing else, we don't know. So he has 18 and 8, right? So in 10 Super League games, he has 3. So say in 30 games, he has roughly 11 to 12 goals, right? Um, I think that's a good trajectory. His last update on the transfer market, his value was 4.5, and that was October. I assume it's going to go up a lot more in the next update. I'm not sure how much they're going to. I'm not sure how often they update it. I assume it'll
He
be
also he also scored for the national team since then, which will
right.
definitely bump up the. I mean, we're talking obviously they do it from like a statistical standpoint, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily reflective of their true value, but that's obviously going to increase his value, right? Scoring for the national team.
Correct. Yeah. I could see his value going up to around 6. I'm not sure how much they. Again, I'm not sure the numbers they use, the data they use, all that thing. But I'm every time you search his name on Twitter and online, people are talking about him. You hear the commentators, British commentators, talking about him. So he's definitely on the mind of a lot of people. So I'd say if this trajectory continues, I wouldn't sell him for under 10.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean there's still a long way to go, and I think we have a habit in Greece of like jumping on players early. Again, I'll reiterate, I think Solis is different to other talents we've seen come and go before. But sometimes I think, players get hot and they look like the next big thing and their head kind of blows up and then they never fully develop. In saying that though, Solis looks great, but he clearly has things to work on. Against, like we've said, as Bulk struggles, Solis in space, he's a big threat. He doesn't necessarily have that close dribble in
Mm-hmm.
against a pack defense. So I want him in the box at this point in his career. When we're against a pack defense, I want him in the box because his positioning and goal sense is first rate.
Right.
His ability to create space and create a cross or a shot isn't really there yet against the pack defense. I'm talking obviously. So he has stuff. It's not like he's a flawless player. He has stuff to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, hopefully he just stays grounded above all.
Yeah, I'm just looking at transfers. So Neri Castillo went from Olympiacos to Shakhtar. He played on the wing. He was valued at 8 mil, and he went for 15 mil. So that's something where I'm looking at that, and I could see them being relatively the same kind of level in terms of for market value and level of play. So something if an offer comes this summer for 12 to 15 mil, I'm taking it. And then you have to look at it from Solis's point of view, right? And I don't think he's this type of kid. Nothing I've seen makes me think he is. But and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but say a team like I don't know. I don't want to go English because of I feel like with Tsimikas and Yanulev to Newcastle. Say a team like Atletico comes, and again, I'm not saying that they are, but say a team like Atletico Madrid comes, offers 12 million for him, and we say no. Is that something that's going to upset him? He's thinking, well, I could go here right now as a 19-year-old in a huge club in the world, and I'd be one of the biggest transfers in Greek soccer history, and they turned me down. You know, and do you think that could be a problem? Not in terms of his personality, but something that we have to think about.
I think potentially, but I honestly think, like, as you were saying that, I just envisioned, like, I had a little vision, I had a little look to the future. And I just, if an offer like that comes, I really don't think that Bug wouldn't accept it. Like, I know you said that you wouldn't, and I probably agree with you in the summer. But I think from a purely footballing business standpoint, if an offer like that comes from a Greek player, we literally just said 11, 12 million. There's three Greek players in the history of the league that have been sold for more than that. Like, I don't see Bulk not accepting if that offer comes.
I agree. I think yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, if it was over 10, I would say 12 to 15 you accept. Now even 11, obviously, but I think under if we're asking for 7, I don't think that's acceptable.
Yeah, no, I just don't think you accept that. And yeah, but again, I mean, there's a lot to play out. I don't know if teams will come for him over once, like if they're going to be satisfied or one season is enough, to invest. But the thing we've got to remember too, if we're talking European powerhouses, right? Your Atletico Madrid's, Dortmund was linked to him. I think last week there was an article flying around that a Spanish article. So I don't know exactly how Spain knows what's going on in Germany, but anyway, um, that Dortmund was keeping an eye on him. So if a team like that comes, 10 to 15 million really isn't that much for teams like that. Like in Greek football terms, that's huge.
Right.
But to them, it's not as a big investment as what we are kind of, as of what it is from a Greek footballing standpoint. Like Liverpool shelled out 11 million for Tsimikas, and that's like a bargain buy for Liverpool.
Right.
And Greek football was correctly, it was one of the biggest transfers in history. Obviously, because he went to Liverpool as well, but
Mm-hmm.
that's nothing money. So yeah, look, I don't know. It's a little. Like, I mean, it's only natural as fans for our minds to drift ahead to how much he's worth and are we going to sell him or keep him. I think it's a little bit like premature. I hope I just want him to stay, and I think he'll stay for this season. And I mean, yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit. I think depending on how the rest of the season goes, will dictate his offers, if any, come in the summer.
Yeah. Right. We'll see. We don't want to jinx anything, but it's looking good. Um, I posted out on Twitter earlier about questions if someone had any to do like a little Q&A. So I have 3 questions. I got 3 questions. Two from our buddy Pascalis, who yelled at me before that I was cutting you off, so I tried to not cut you off today as much. Um,
I didn't want to say anything, man. I'm a bit scared of you, Angela. I'm not gonna lie, but thank you to Pascali for standing up for me because it's a skill I'm still developing.
he asked this question: If Biseswar leaves this winter, does Vrakas get more playing time, and does he deserve more playing time? What say you?
So on Vrakas, that is.
What's that?
Was that on Vrakas, that one?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Um, Look, it's a little bit hard with like the young players, and I know we've just been speaking about Solis and pumping him up, and um, Mikhailidis has come in and done well. And I think again yesterday, I think ever since you kind of questioned Mikhailidis, man, he's been nothing but solid every time he's played.
That's because
I don't know
he's listened to our videos and our podcast, and he's like, I can't have this guy not liking me.
I tell you what, man, I think because he's looked like a seasoned pro. Like Asteras had a couple of chances yesterday, and he just like in the right spot. They had cutbacks, just cutting it out. He's been superb, but I mean, with young players, it's hard to gauge when you haven't seen them much because, like, who could have predicted Solis and Mikhailidis would have the impact they have had?
Right.
Um, so it's hard to know. I mean, he'll probably, I mean, as it stands, he'll probably get a little bit more game time. I mean, Ferreira gave him, a game early. Vrakas obviously spends a bit of time at Napoli as well in their academy system.
Right.
So he's obviously a talented kid. I mean, it's hard. It's honestly hard to know. I'd say he will under Garcia. Garcia likes the youth. We've seen Cigaras become a starter the last couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he deserves it, I mean, without being there and watching them train and that sort of thing.
Right.
But I think if Businessvad was to move on and we don't bring anyone else in, because that's the thing, would they be looking for a more senior player to come in and potentially fill that role?
Right. Right.
And I think we would see more of him off the bench, being an attacking midfielder, something that we lack. I think we would. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think we will see him, and we really don't know if he deserves it. Like you said, we don't know what happens in practice. We don't know how much Garcia values him. It's obvious that he does. So I think we will see him, and we have the cup games coming up. We won't have Europe. I think that especially if the season goes and we start falling behind Olympiacos, and we have to a game or two where we could rest a player. I think he'll fit in there. So yeah, I mean, I'll say yes to that answer to the question. Just to follow up what you said. Let's see
Uh,
what the next question is. Next question: Does will Kutsias get loaned out?
will Gutierrez get loaned out? He's very young, so he's only 16. I mean, I think if you can find a team that's going to give him football at senior level, you probably do it. But I don't think you get. It's probably going to be a second division team, and the second division hasn't started in Greece, and I don't know if there's any plan to. There's a lot of the Players Association in Greece is currently not protesting, but they're raising awareness for the second and third divisions in Greece that don't have a start date and all that sort of thing. So I think that they probably are going to keep Gutierrez, given he's so young, keep him close to the team, let him play with the under 20s, control his development. I think he's probably too young to be to go out on loan. I think anywhere he goes out on loan, he's going to be best case off the bench, and I think they'd rather keep him. I'd rather keep him at PAOK in that case.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. 16-year-olds don't get loaned out that often. If you would, if the second division was going on, then yes, he'd get loaned out there. But they're not going to start 16-year-old over 28, 29-year-old that's been for that club a while. So I don't think he'll get loaned out. I think he'll maybe make an appearance or two in the league. Um, but again, time will tell what happens if we have all forwards. If a forward gets hurt, what's going to happen. So I don't think it's obvious to tell what will happen, but it's looking more and more likely that he's going to be staying, especially with the climate in the world going on right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then the final question: if we were to sign someone, what position would we get in this for this winter transfer period? And we'll be quick with this because we are running up on time. I'll start off. I think maybe a right back. Because Wagwe is going to be just a loanee, and he's looked on and off. He's had some games where he's played well, some games where he hasn't. Rodrigo just came out of the game today, so we're not sure what's up with him, if anything, if he's gonna be missing a long time. But he made one sprint and he's out. um, but I think we should start looking for maybe a younger right back. I mean, we have Liratsis, who I don't know if Garcia favors likes them or not as a player because he's had opportunities to play him and he really hasn't that much. He had COVID, right?
Yeah, I think he
I
might have earlier. I
think
can't
he
remember.
might
He
have,
might
yeah.
have.
But maybe it's someone who could be a right back of a future, and then maybe even getting rid of like Rodrigo because he takes up a non-European spot. So if you could bring someone in, but that I mean, otherwise than that, I think we have solid depth at the positions. I don't think we should spend money on a big center midfielder right now. I mean, if we're just playing for the league, that's why we're talking about just the winter window, not for the summer next year. What do you think?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say central midfield is one where people have said, and they said him more like a defensive midfielder. But I'm gonna say, and this might be, not feasible given they just spent 3 million on Solak, but I think a striker. Like I think if we're in touch with Olympiacos, we're
Mm-hmm.
going toe to toe with them. We need someone who's going to score because I don't think we can contend for the league deep into the season without someone scoring, and I don't think Sherlock is, he hasn't settled. He's not a starter now, so I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity to, to really to properly settle. Svidevsky, he is what he is. He's a poacher. I mean, he's been better lately, but I think a more all-round striker. I don't know who's going to be available in January, but honestly, that's what I'd be looking at personally.
Yeah,
Again, that might not be feasible given they just spent 3 million on a striker. I don't know what it's going to do to Cholak's confidence. Is there someone on loan you can bring in that's playing at a bigger that plays at a bigger team that's not getting minutes?
that's a good point right there. Bring in someone that a big time loanee, right?
Yeah, like
Like a rental, right?
yeah, literally. So because again, I don't know if they're concerned about how it looks, or if they're going to destroy Chulak's confidence completely. You brought this guy in as your big summer signing, your striker. That's going to lead your line. Hasn't worked out. I'm not saying he's a flop, but I'm saying based on current form, you need
Right.
someone who's going to score, and Cholak isn't that guy. Svidevsky is hot and cold, and he lacks in other areas if he's not scoring. So yeah, I'd probably be looking at a striker and maybe on loan just to not maybe shatter some of the other guys' confidences to a million pieces, just to 500,000 pieces.
Right, right, and they're making enough money, so they'll be fine. So yeah, so let's go to your segment real quick. All right,
So
that's the Tinaftore. That's your segment. That's your baby. So you take charge.
backed by popular demand, didn't thought it. So obviously it's been a while since we did this, and we're just gonna, we'll try to do it every week, but obviously it depends what's going on and if we've got too much to talk about. But so over the last couple games, I mean, this one really pains me to award this one because I've been a staunch defender of this guy. Over the last couple of years, he's been maligned at times by fans. This year has come on and been arguably our MVP. So it really hurts me to give this to my boy, and we discussed him earlier. But Omar El Gadouri, your last couple games, my friends, haven't been great. You've made two massive mistakes. You gave away the penalty against Ammonia after giving the ball away, which basically, I mean, we're already in the coffin in terms of not qualifying from the group, but you nailed that coffin shut by conceding the penalty in the 84th or 85th minute. And then, as discussed earlier, what you did against Asteras, I mean, losing your head, you know, reducing us to 10 men. The fact that the team came out and won in spite of that, so you really hung us out to dry. So it hasn't been a great few days for you, Omar. So to you, we say Dinafdore, and it really does hurt me because I really do like him as a player, but it hasn't been a great few days. So I think that's a well deserved one for him.
That's good. That's fair. I agree. I was thinking of one who could we do, and no one else came to mind. But yeah, so awesome job on that segment. We'll see if anyone on Twitter wants to tag another moment that we could bring up for discussion. But yeah, so we're ending this episode. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Let us know how you like this episode. That's episode 15 of PAOK Talk, your official English speaking podcast for all things PAOK. We were your hosts, Angelo and John. I hope you enjoyed this episode.